families, friends, allies, and members of the LGBTQ community. We provide support, education, and advocacy on LGBTQ issues for anyone who wants it. I want to start with this message, which is part of what was published today by PFLAG National. We concur with President Obama's message. This unprecedented massacre, this act of terror, this act of hate against people who are LGBTQ was an attack on the fundamental belief in equality and dignity for all people. At PFLAG, it tragically reminds us that our work is far from over. As ambassadors of love and hope, PFLAG members will continue to support our extended family of LGBTQ people, families, and allies through these dark, anxious moments and beyond. Let us join in unity to end violence and hatred. So now I'm speaking for myself. I'm a parent, the mother of a transgender man. In my worst moments, I worry that he or one of our friends could be the next target of such hatred. I'm also a mental health professional, and I'm familiar with the effects of intense, disabling fear, sometimes reaching the level of PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder. While we pray in our own ways for the souls and legacies of those who died, we also worry about the living, those who were wounded in Orlando, those who were present but not injured, those who love anyone who was there and anyone who is LGBTQ. They and we have all been traumatized to some degree by this violence. And this includes all of us who have loved ones in the LGBTQ community. We want to keep on track as we acknowledge the fear, anger, and sadness that this violence brings up in us. Our challenge is to provide love and social support for those affected, including ourselves, so that we don't fall into irrational and disabling fear and anger, so that our responses are constructive and guided by hope and love. Social support and community, giving and receiving love, as we're doing tonight, are part of PFLAG's main missions, and they are the best antidotes to crippling fear and stress. We have each other, we have love, and we will prevail. Thank you.
All right, I hope y'all can hear me. I've also been in tears all day, and it took quite a toll on my voice. So, my name is Dale Manning, and I'm here to speak about how this tragedy affects the transgender community. I'm the president of the board of the Transgender Equality Network that's based here in Fayetteville. Along with the gay, lesbian, and bisexual communities, transgender people rely on clubs like Pulse and C4 to be safe spaces where we can relax and have a good time without facing scrutiny from the rest of the world. These are all important to our individual growth. We need the opportunity to explore our identities and learn how to navigate the world. LGBTQ spaces give our community that room to grow. This tragedy strikes fear into all of our hearts, and the transgender community is in mourning as well. We don't actually know how many transgender people who were there, but there's a pretty good chance that one of us was one of the many who were injured or killed. We use the acronym LGBTQ for a reason. While we may all be different, our issues intersect with many members of the community encompassing more than one part of the acronym. Our movements have made significant progress in recent years, and we are all impacted by the backlash that has risen as a result. Now, it is more important than ever for us to be united and to move forward together as one. We all need to be willing to stand up for each other. We cannot afford to be ignorant of our own community's needs, nor can we afford to prioritize one community's needs over another. We are all in this together. I want to encourage everyone here to commit themselves to learning more about the other communities within the LGBTQ and to educate others in turn. Thank you.
I'm Clint Schneckloth, and I'm the pastor at Good Shepherd Lutheran Church here in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and we are a Reconciling in Christ congregation, which means we're committed, as is St. Paul's and some other communities in Fayetteville, to being hopefully welcoming and safe spaces for all people. And last year, right at about this time, I was in Chicago for a meeting and woke up to learn about Charleston and the shootings that took place there. And a lot of my colleagues at the meeting that I was at were African American. They came to our meeting that morning, and what they said was, that's our safe space. Like, we go to church, that's like home base. And the violence happened there. And I know from, just as Dale mentioned now, and as I know from many of my friends, that clubs are like that for a lot of people. It's home base, it's a safe space, it's where you can be yourself. And so we now are all gathered tonight because people were not safe in their own home base and their safe place. And we all have a responsibility to change that so that that can't happen. And we're all, and I name myself as being one of the most, are often complicit in there not being safe spaces. Church hasn't always been a safe space, still oftentimes isn't. Not all clubs are. And so, as I'm thinking about that, and here we all are, what we have the opportunity to do and to be is to be that safe kind of place for each other. If you look around, these are your people. This is your space. This is your place. These are your friends. And maybe just sitting with that can be a source of strength, empowerment. Sitting with that can do something, I think, and that's why everybody knew to come. And so I guess the first thing I would say is thank you for coming, for being strong enough to be here. Imagine some people felt like, wow, it wasn't safe for the people at the club, will it be safe for me? And so it took some courage on everyone's part to be here. So thank you for being here. And then thank you for the vulnerability that comes along with opening up communities one to another so that we can know each other more deeply and find ways to love one another. And then let's all have the strength. I know I need this. probably more than anybody else, to figure out how to work on myself so that I'm not contributing to the kind of systems that perpetuate the kind of violence we've seen. That's my prayer. Thank you.
Hi, I'm going to switch gears a little bit, so strap in. My name's Camila Rishu. I'm a Master of Public Health student at UAMS, and I just want to say that while I'm completely heartbroken as I look out, the fact that we have people sitting on the floor and sitting in chairs and out all the way to the door just gives me an overwhelming sense of love and community, and I don't know if you feel overwhelmed by it, but I bet you do. So I was shivering whenever I was like, wow, this is so different from where I came from in rural southern Arkansas, and I can't imagine this happening in another place. So in 1996, an Arkansas representative named Jay Dickey, supported by the NRA, authored an amendment that stripped the Center of Disease Control and Injury Prevention of funding to research on gun violence and policy after the House of Representatives unsuccessfully attempted to shut down the entire CDC. Because of this, federal public health research into gun violence is functionally banned. Years of research into the complex facets of violence and policy are omitted from the national conversation. The issue of gun violence is complex and deeply rooted in our culture, which is why we must take a public health approach to ensuring our future can be one in which we don't have to gather here to mourn. Whether it's intimate partner violence or mass shootings fueled by extremism, we have to do better. And in order to do better, we have to approach this from all angles, from public health into gun safety and mental health, and the epidemiology of gun violence to creating ethical policy that relies on research, to a government that will enact and enforce that policy and legislation. I don't want to get bogged down in this, but the majority of Americans, everyone in here, is tired of this. We're all so tired of this. Barack Obama is probably very tired of giving this speech over and over. And the majority of Americans want change, but change can only come with support and political cover for politicians to support this policy change and research funding, to ban assault weapons, close loopholes, expand background checks, extend gun-free zones, demilitarize public spaces where free speech should happen, allow class action lawsuits against gun manufacturers. We have to contact our legislators through every medium and every channel possible. We have to give them no other choice. And the conversation narrative is already switching from extremism and gun violence against the LGBT community and the Latino community because it was a Latino night at the club, to this anti-Muslim rhetoric with no mention of who the victims are, completely erasing that this was a hate crime. This is unacceptable, and we cannot let the truth be erased. We cannot let the identity of who was attacked be erased. But most importantly, we cannot use our anger and our fear to support action based upon fear. So the facts of this tragedy are going to change as more information comes in. And like I said, this falls just under hate crime as much as extremism. But we won't allow anyone to use the deaths of our LGBT family to justify hatred of our Muslim brothers and sisters and go right back to pushing policy. We won't allow ourselves to be used as a weapon and then allow them to go right back to hunting down trans people in bathrooms and pushing 200 anti-LGBT bills. I was speaking to my boss just an hour or so ago, and he said something that kind of stuck with me. That was that what I know for certain is that the first 5 seconds in which you found out about this tragedy was a heartbreaking pain, I imagine, repulsed and heartbroken. And then we all retreat back into our corner to the safety of our personal narratives and our belief systems. And I really believe that we have to do something. We have to, form a coalition and really urge our legislators to act. But we can't let ourselves be paralyzed by fear and hopelessness. Nothing will change otherwise. We are powerful, we are prideful, and we are united. And I'm so empowered by this community, especially our Fayetteville community, and I know that we can win this fight, but it's not going to be easy. So thank you so much.
Good evening. We're here tonight to mourn the 50 lives lost in Orlando early this morning, to offer hope to the more than 50 who were injured, and to provide whatever comfort and consolation can be found in times like these to those we hold dear here at home. We are saddened beyond measure. We are justifiably angry. We are numb. We are tired. And we may even be afraid. And as these feelings will almost certainly begin to fade in the coming weeks and months and years, the one thing we cannot allow to diminish is the sense of urgency that I know grips every person in this room right now, that desire to act, to do something, to prevent something like this from ever happening again. And it's going to take more than those of us here in this room, because the scope and complexity and difficulty of the challenge before us cannot be overstated. It's going to take more than sharing our thoughts in public. It's going to take more than even a call or a letter to an elected official. It is going to require each of us to summon the resolve each and every day to champion loudly and relentlessly the responsible and appropriate policies to protect every person in this country. And it's not going to be easy. But unless we do something, this will continue. Since day broke on the first day of this year, 18,090 people have been shot in this country. That's a shooting almost every 13 minutes. 5,934 people were killed. 12,156 were injured. 1,266 of those were between the ages of 12 and 17. 254 were no older than 11. The shooting in Orlando this morning marked the 135th time this year that 4 or more people, not counting gunmen, were shot in the same event. That's 135 mass shootings in this country in this year alone. And in these first 12 days of June, there have already been 14. Now, no law or set of laws is going to be able to prevent every act of madness. And no set of laws can also address all the different kinds of problems we have before us. The gun violence that gripped Chicago, where 64 people were gunned down on Memorial Day weekend alone. The kind of domestic violence we saw in Belfair, Washington in February of this year when a husband murdered his family before turning the gun on himself. The kind of racial violence, the horrific likes of which we saw in South Carolina last year. Or the kind of unimaginable, unspeakable acts of violence visited on places like Columbine, Jonesboro, Paducah, Fort Hood, Sandy Hook, Chattanooga, Orlando, Virginia Tech. We could sit here and name a lot. Milwaukee. No set of solutions will address all those kinds of violence. Again, the problem before us requires us to be undaunted and relentless. But we have to keep moving forward, or this will continue to happen. And we've got to look at everybody around us this evening and let them know that we will be with them, no matter how difficult this is, today, tomorrow, and always. And every day we've got to look up at the sky where there are more stars tonight than last and use that light as motivation and inspiration to do what it's going to take to make sure that this never happens again. Thank you.
can't believe I have to follow that. I want to talk to whoever put this agenda together. We're going to meet later. My name is Susan Hartman. I'm the new staffer at your Northwest Arkansas Center for Equality. We're all kind of anxious to get out there with our candles, so I'm going to keep my comments kind of short. And I'm also, not only do I have to follow that, but the mayor's following me, so I want to hurry and get off the stage. One of the things I did today was jump online and look through the list of vigils just like this one all across the country. There's hundreds of them taking place. So when you kind of look around and you see all of these folks, the diversity here within these walls, and you think this is being repeated time and time and time again across this entire country, it says one thing: there is unity in our community, and I'm very proud of that. Here in just a few moments, we are going to march down Dixon Street with our candles lit, and we're going to honor and remember those who were lost, those who are injured, some who are fighting for their lives. And then we're going to come back on Saturday, and we're going to walk that exact same route. Tonight we're going to walk for those who can march no longer. Saturday we're going to stand up, we're going to stand together, and we're going to march forward, and we're going to let the world know that we are loud, we are proud, and we are not afraid. Thank you all.
Tonight we send our thoughts and prayers and hearts out to the family, friends, and loved ones after the tragic loss of 50 innocent lives and the wounding of others in Orlando. As I look out across this crowd tonight, I know you're hurting and you're grieving. Me too. And I don't always know what to say in these kind of things, but I've had my share of pain in my life. And when it has been at its worst, I will many times look in a mirror and say, well, Lionel, you're still here. You're still on the path of love. Stay that course, and tomorrow will be a better day. If we stay on that course of love, tomorrow will be a better day for all of us. There's always two forces at work in the world. There's fear and there's love. And from fear comes all kinds of evil: hate, violence, prejudice, and injustice. But as I look out across this crowd tonight, I know that we're better than that because we walk on the path of love. And that path of love is the cord that binds us all together in this room. It binds this city together, and it will bind this nation together. And we're not going to build up fences around this city. We're going to tear them down. That path of love will take us to a lofty place where love and peace and hope is the order of the day. And that no matter how many times they knock us down, we keep getting up. And through love, they can't knock us down enough times to keep us from getting up. So, my friends, today, know that tomorrow will be a better day, because together, through love, we will make it so. Thank you all.
I invite you to prepare to get your candles ready. Members of St. Paul's Episcopal Church will be coming down the aisle with torches to light our candles.
John,